Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mama Genius Hub. Today I have Dale Allen, and we're going to dive into the feminine mystique, almost of it's been lost. I've been reading her book, In Our Right Mind, and just looking at how things have evolved and some of the things we lost. And we're going to dive into that today. Welcome to Mama Genius Hub podcast, where we support moms with big dreams from entrepreneurship to personal aspirations. I'm your host, Michelle Kaiser, and I'm here to help you unlock your potential in all areas of life. Join us as we explore strategies for thriving in motherhood while pursuing the dreams, the key to actually unlocking your genius. Subscribe now and embark on a journey to realize your fullest potential. Dale has been for 25 years has shared the healing energy of the sacred feminine through her work, In Our Right Mind, which has been widely acclaimed at universities, conferences, corporations, theaters, expos across the US, Canada, Dubai, the UN commissions, and the status of women. And the Parliament of World Religion, which is where I met her and had the privilege of being introduced, and on her documentary as well. The film version has been awarded with 19 independent film festivals worldwide, and the new book is an Amazon bestseller.
Thank you so very much, Michelle, and welcome, viewers. It's a pleasure to be here, a pleasure to see you again after being together live at the Parliament of the World's Religions.
Oh, it's so wonderful. We're just going to dive right in. Before I know you're going to read something for us, but before we do that, I just wanted to know a little bit about why you even wanted to dive into feminine.
Oh, well, Michelle, that's a very important question. It wasn't that I wanted to dive into the sacred feminine.
That's true.
What happened is that at a particular moment in my journey, in my life, 25 years ago, I was on a pathway, always very spiritual in my orientation of like, what is the creator? The creator is imbued in all things, becoming incomplete at the same time, looks like you, looks like me. I was raised in the Catholic faith, and I loved all of the beautiful statues in church. I loved to see Mary holding her baby. I loved all of the saints, particularly the beautiful, soft, feminine female ones. I had a good, relationship with Catholicism because I was in a progressive family. So I could enjoy the beautiful, soft message of, Jesus as Christ consciousness that flows through all of us, right? So definitely not can't buy into a one lane dogma. My way is the right way, and that's it. So it's always much more fluid. But at a particular moment in my life, the path that I was on with my goals and things I had set forward, which for me have always been synonymous with soul. So the two go hand in hand. I had been thwarted on a particular path. It was an ending. It was kind of a crashing down of a whole lot of effort and a whole lot of focus. When that happened, I decided to stop, to and to stay in the void because I could have easily jumped right in to fill up that void with the next thing, hurry up, next goal, let's go, back in the saddle, jump on. Is there value to that at certain points? Yes. Is there also value at certain points to say, no, no, no? Let the horse go graze for a while. Don't get back in the saddle. Stay here. Stay in the not knowing. Stay in the not doing. Stay in the void. Does our culture appreciate the void? No. When somebody asks you, so what are you doing? What you been up to? And you're like, oh, I'm in the void right now. I'm taking a moment of peace. Our culture doesn't want to hear that. It's like, what are you doing? Come on, what do you mean? What's this void thing?
Move on, get with it.
Exactly. But it was during that void that I consciously took that I started to hear a different voice coming up from inside of me, like from my center, like from my womb. Now that I think about it, because my hand is pretty low on my belly right now. And it was a female voice. That was distinctly different for me. But this was coming up and it was this female voice. And I realized this was unique and it was important to listen because I knew it was valuable and I knew it was sacred. It was also at that time that the word goddess started crossing my path. I didn't like the word, Michelle. I didn't like the word goddess. I didn't feel the need to ascribe a gender to this energy behind all things. But then I asked myself, and here was where the jig was up. I could hear or use the word God in a way that was all encompassing. But once the word goddess was thrown in the mix, I was like, oh, why do we need that? We don't need that. It's beyond gender. And then I thought, okay, I'm walking around in a female body and I'm really resisting this word. Why? So I didn't choose, in a sense. These things conspired to cross my path to then make me say, let me go headlong into this. Let me research it. Let me find out about this whole goddess thing. And that was what really changed my life. Once I experienced all of that, I had to share it with others. Hence 25 years of sharing this message in multiple formats.
Well, I love that so much. And I think that's what this is all about, is when you have that calling inside of you. And a lot of times as women, we let, as you were saying, the busyness erase that calling, but then it comes back up again. And that's what I feel like this genius podcast is all about, is what is that genius inside of you, that calling inside that's coming out? How do you get that out of you? But we have to do it together and collectively in bringing that all together. And so I'd love for you at this point to read what we talked about earlier.
So I'm very tickled, actually, Michelle. It makes me happy that as you're reading In Our Right Minds, and you held up my book, and I'll do it now too, because this is like quite an experience for me right now. I'm holding up my book.
We're celebrating
You
you.
are too. I mean, listen, it's exciting. I think my cheeks are red. So in this book, while you are reading it, you came to a passage that is really deep for me. So this book represents, again, 25 years of my life. My daughter is 23. In the time of my desire to be a mother, which is a deeply primal thing for many women, not all, many, I had a long road. I had, it wasn't an automatic kind of a thing. I had early miscarriages. I had a lot of sorrow around it. And I wondered if this was ever going to happen. That was also a deeply transformative experience, because ultimately during that time, I needed to recognize that fertility is an energy, and we are all abundantly fertile at every step in our lives, and sometimes in different ways. But I happened to be in Switzerland at the time on a big trade show, and I went into a cathedral there because at this point I was on my own personal time in Switzerland. And this cathedral had been built, the way Europe is, in the 12th century.
Mhm.
And then, here I am in this incredible building. I was standing in front of a beautiful statue of Mary and Jesus. And as I told you in the beginning, these statues are, well, they're part of my DNA because I happen to be born into, Catholicism, and this beautiful image, just hundreds and hundreds of years old. And I'm standing there, tears were streaming down my face. And these were the words that came to me. They're in my book under the title A Motherhood Journey. And the subtitle is Sacred Vows Preceding Conception. I want this experience with all my heart and soul. I am willing to believe that we are co-creating heaven on earth. I am willing to remember my true nature, my divinity. I am willing to bring forth a being of light. I recognize that this being is arriving at precisely the right moment and in precisely the right package. I am willing to recognize the radiance of her being before her conception and throughout all the days I carry. I am willing to support this being in ways that will assist him in staying aware that he may never need to fall into the sleep of forgetting his true nature. I am willing to do this by offering the same support to myself. I am willing to accept all parts of this journey. I see perfection in his physical form. I see perfection in the contours of her mind. I see perfection in the gifts, talents, and insights he brings. I see the perfection of her own pace and unique unfolding. I am willing to hold the vision that love is possible at all times, at every level, and in every experience. I am willing. May every child be regarded as the holy child he or she is, as we all commit to embracing a thriving human family and planet. Heaven is here and now on earth.
Mhm. I want to soak that in.
Yeah.
It feels like the dreams you had before the child, and then like all the frustrations and things that come up, but it's like having that reminder of the dreams and the vision that you had before, and then rectifying that with what is, and seeing the beauty of that child in front of you, and just having that reminder of really who they are and the things, and to really take stock of that today. And so I want moms out there who are listening to really just take stock of what that made them feel, and project that loveness onto your kids, and see the beauty and the genius inside of them.
Yes. Thank you for saying that because it is true that those words applied and apply to the human being that is my daughter. So always, I still feel these words today with her, and she is a young adult. In her growing up, that was my true north. That was my compass. I was privileged and am privileged to have someone who came through me to arrive on earth. And now, am I human? For sure. But one of the things that I would speak with to her when she was growing up and even now, when you're in the midst of small childhood, it's a lot going on. Sometimes it's almost like like all the burners of the stove are on and your hands on one or you're sitting on one and you still got to make everything happen, right? It can get really, it's an amazing journey and it's all very present. I will say that with her, even when things would happen, there might just be a moment where neither of us can fix this right away. We've both gone into a place where there's frustration, there's no way out. Each person is, just triggered and upset. And I would say to her in those moments many times, and she's well aware of this and would still talk about this today. When she was old enough to walk, and Tina's a little bit older, but when she was little, I would carry her outside. I would say, let's go outside. We have to take a walk right now, right now, right now. And we would get out and we would start walking because within a short period of time, once you get outside and your body's moving and all of nature, which is what you are made of, is conspiring to say, it's all right. It's all right. That brings the energy, frustration, and anxiety down right away. And then I would say to her, and this I am deeply proud of. I could cry about this, and I didn't know I was going to share it in this show, but this is Mama Genius. This is something I'm proud of. And if you have little ones, think about this. When the intensity of the emotion had, kind of ended, before it went into any kind of a you this and you that, that's something I stayed away from with her too. Once the emotion settles down, I can just think of this one in particular, but I did say this several times. I would say, that mommy, I said, this mommy and this Danny sitting here right now, so calm and so peaceful, and we feel better after our walk. I said, I really love this mommy and this Danny. I really do. I said, it feels so good, doesn't it? And by then, we're both feeling better and we both want to feel better. And then I would say to her, and the other mommy and the other Danny that were so upset or scared or mad, I said, I love them too. I love them too. And it's all right. We both incarnated as humans, and it's a good place to be. This is what it looks like when you're a human. Things come up, emotions happen, but it's all okay. And it's all lovable and it's all beautiful. Humans raised by humans. This is what it looks like. But there's a lot of love there, which made everything just go, with some love to myself, recognition that I don't have all the answers, nor can I always be like, "Ah,"
You got
right?
voice for it.
You know, but that it's okay. that it's all
Well,
right.
I love that so much because so much as it's us, like, I felt like when I was raising, it's like it's always like felt like you need to suppress those emotions. Like those emotions weren't okay. I think a lot of us came out of that just like let's hide the dark feelings, that all of that, being able to celebrate both sides of it and to have that conversation when you're in the side where you can recognize that. Because I do that with my kids as well. It's like afterwards, like it's okay that that happened. Let's talk about what you can learn from it, though. Let's talk about what we do next. Where do we go from it? We're human. We're gonna make the same mistakes. I mean, even this morning, I let the girls have it because I was so flustered with having everything on my mind, like trying to remind them of their chores. I'm like, set your own alarms on Alexa. Figure out a way so that you remember that it's not something that has to be on my mind. And I just kind of let them have it. But afterwards, I was like, why did I yell? That anxiousness. And then I went over to my little one to apologize and say, she's like, it's okay, mommy. I understand why you're frustrated. I get that you're mad at me. I don't want to talk right now.
Now
And I
now
was like,
that now that is incredibly beautiful. I really also applaud you by apologizing. Right, because it shows self-forgiveness and compassion for yourself, certainly honoring and respecting your child to say, "Listen, I'm sorry." I and then for her, you've already really given her a great tool because she was able to say, "It's all right. I get it. I know you're frustrated." But she also was like, "And I'm still kind of wigged out by the yelling part, so give me a minute." But everybody in that whole story you just told is loved and lovable.
yeah,
This is what it looks like. Also, when things are handled that way, there tends to be fewer of them.
it is the way you do it. And it's just, and it's always that we, I love the idea that you're talking about. It is really the self forgiveness because it really does come back to how we're feeling and then how we look at ourselves. Because when we're just condemning ourselves, then we seem to condemn everyone around us. We're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back to talk about the more of the feminine divine and the patriarchal that is in this book that I love the history behind it and just seeing that. And I want her to bring that out a little bit more. Attention, mompreneurs. Do you feel like you're constantly juggling the responsibilities without a moment to yourself? It's time to pause and reflect with our Mama Genius quiz. Tailored for busy mamas like you, this quiz will help you identify what's blocking your path and inspire you to harness your unique strengths. Transform how you manage life and business, find your rhythm, and ignite your joy. Visit mamageniushub.com today to discover your Mama Genius. And that's mamageniushub.com. Well, let's just dive right into it because I was just so fascinated by the history of it. I just didn't even know how much divine feminine there was before. And then like in a short period of time, it was just like gone.
Thank you so much. It's very gratifying for me because, again, I've been teaching this for a long time. And I am reminded regularly, and especially as this book is now heading out into the market, that it is information that even women who I know who are kind of in the goddess field are like, I didn't know that. So, indeed, let me begin by saying that my journey of the sacred feminine is truly loving of men. And my journey through the sacred feminine is a gift for all humans, no matter how identified. Men, women, all humans, no matter how we identify, we are all a blend of masculine and feminine. The feminine energy in all of us, no matter what body we're walking around in, that energy, that feminine energy has been subjugated, positioned as less than, pushed down, and been made either potentially negative or evil, not trustworthy, definitely less than, secondary. We might idealize certain feminine things, motherhood and apple pie, but the real honest honoring of it in its wholeness, that's what's been missing. So when we look at this sacred feminine journey and we look at the human journey, we tend to count our human journey by going to the beginning. And what do we call the beginning? The first written words. We count the beginning as the first stuff that we can discern as written. Well, the written word, in terms of alphabetic literacy and the first written words, for example, the first written law code of Sumer, Mesopotamia, that is actually a recent development in our whole journey as human beings. Because in fact, 90% of our history is pre literate history. It goes back into the hunter gatherer model. That's how our brains were designed. That's how our bodies were designed. We are designed to be in a balance of the masculine and feminine. And the model for humanity is not to have gender hierarchy, it's a relatively new development. We can't imagine living outside of a gender hierarchy because it's all we've ever known and seems to be all that
Mhm.
humanity has ever known. We've got wonderful cartoons of the caveman clubbing the woman and dragging her into the cave. Not true. In these cultures and indigenous cultures around the world today, where the blueprint is still alive and viable, the blueprint of matriarchy, which is never women in power over men, they are egalitarian. But the feminine and the female is honored. And in these cultures, we see this beautiful balance and no gender hierarchy, so that the masculine and feminine within all of us, within all humans, is balanced and honored, and this shows outwardly in the society. So, looking at this sacred feminine energy, which represents 90% of our history, when our foremothers and forefathers saw, and let me grab this for you actually, because this is a great example of a Paleolithic goddess. This is the goddess of Willendorf. She's circa 35,000 years BCE, and she's typical of the goddesses of that era. She's round, she's grounded, she's full, she's very peaceful. Her hands are resting here on her breasts so peacefully. She is very full, very beautiful, this Paleolithic goddess, this mother of all things. She is a mother who has birthed all of creation, and in her peaceful countenance, she nurtures that which she loves so deeply. Could you imagine if all of us, the world over, when we thought of the word God from every different religion, this is what came to mind: the mother of all things, who births all of us and all life, that this is the energetic.
I
So
can't imagine that.
yeah, right? I mean, it's amazing. Not only
It's
that,
so
but
calming, like, just to
consider
feel.
what this does also for things like body image, right? Just loving the female form in all of her beautiful forms, in all of the ways she appears. This is this a beautiful goddess as well. She's from Greece. And so you see these different, body types and different ages, but the goddess, this goddess archetype, from maiden through mother through crone, in all of the different body styles, the beautiful early goddesses of Inanna and Artemis and Ceres and Cybele, who are depicted as black. Here we have this beautiful goddess in every possible color, shape, form, age. These are the models that we as women, they've been stripped away from us. This is very harmful to us, and it's harmful to men as well. Instead of seeing all of that as beautiful and holy and creative and the energy behind all things, as our foremothers and forefathers did. By the way, doesn't matter to me. In fact, I celebrate the world's religions. I absolutely do. If you practice a religion, it connects you to your ancestors, and that's powerful. As a woman in your religion, you are the sacred feminine in that religion. The religions are evolving, and that takes our participation to infuse first in ourselves the holiness of the feminine. And then that starts to reach out in our families, our relationships. The sacred feminine is everywhere in all of us and can pervade all of the religions and heal them and return them to the core elements of those faiths that are so positive. So, the history, Michelle. And, I mean, like I said, I've been teaching this for a long time. I go into the Paleolithic, the Neolithic, all the way through, when the thought form is that the creator is female and births all of creation. Once the sky gods came around, with the advent of this technology called alphabetic literacy, which began to change the way we humans, men and women, were operating in the world, it began to cause an imbalance. So we went evolutionarily through this imbalance where we started to attend to the world more with our left hemisphere, which is the masculine hunter killer hemisphere, which is hierarchical, and gender hierarchy started to come into the picture. So internally, this caused imbalance. Externally, it caused imbalance with gender hierarchy and women being
Mhm.
on the lower rungs. But the thing is that as we went into alphabetic literacy and the sky gods came about, the great sky god as creator, somewhere out there, up there, someone who by word creates, through word, through declaration. The earliest sky gods, why, it was no longer a woman with breasts and womb and sacred yoni birthing all life through the birth canal. No, it was now a sky god commanding and demanding and slaying the goddess in order to take control of the universe. And now life was popping out of his eyebrow. Hmm? Yes. And so we had a big shift, and we lost the mother of all things. Well, we as women, and for men too, because men have a deep longing for a return of the sacred feminine as well. To be stripped away, to strip away the sacredness of the feminine is a loss to every single human, man, woman, and no matter how you identify, because we all carry feminine energy that needs to be restored to its sacred status and energy.
So I have a question for you because I was in a group that was very Christian, and some of the ideas of the feminine stuff came across as like, oh, that's too new agey. How do you rectify that or give them a way to see the difference?
I've had the great pleasure of addressing churches, and it's been wonderful because I will tell you that when I speak about the sacred feminine, and you can see that the name of my body of work is In Our Right Minds. Now, the subtitle says Sacred Feminine, but it's really to help to present all of this as I use the framing of archetypes because archetypes belong to all of us. So, archetypes are an inward image in the human psyche that exerts a powerful influence on the nature of an individual personality and in turn on the larger culture. So archetypes are an inward image exerting a powerful influence on an individual personality and on the larger culture. Well, for humans in modern cultures the world over, the archetype of the sacred feminine or goddess has been less than, and we just don't have energy for it. We don't get it, and in fact, it's been well demonized. And that stuff's too new agey. That's just weird. But if you look at this again, not as a religion, but instead look at it as the sacred feminine energy. In this, all of the biblical stories with Jesus talk about honoring women. Mm, and I know for me, when I have addressed church groups, I've said, listen, I grew up, Catholic, and I do have a deep and abiding relationship with Christ energy. I said, as far as I'm concerned, he's standing right here on the stage with me saying, good, please. Yes, Dale, keep this message going because all women, God's beautiful creation, the feminine face of the divine, this God appearing as women, this has to be honored, was never meant to be less than or subjugated. This message does have to be shared. So I think that the how is really important. I don't present as a religion. And in looking at like the full story, when you just look at all of the information and you start to see that Christianity, before Christianity, there was many of the rituals that were honoring of the sacred feminine that as the church emerged, they kind of co-opted those rituals and sacred places of the goddess and brought them into Christianity to restore history that we have not been taught, right? Like, for example, here's my beautiful Black Madonna. There are over 500 of these in Europe and South America. Now, she is very much like Isis with her son Horus. The worship of Isis was widespread. It went until 400 AD. She was this sacred, beautiful, life-giving goddess with her son Horus, who was an intermediary between ordinary humans and the divine. And as the story of Christ came through, you have the Black Madonnas. The church tried to say it was because of the smoke in the churches, but in fact, the Black Madonnas are connected to the original earth goddesses who are also Black.
And
And
beautiful.
then we began to have Christianity. Now, I look at that, I don't feel a conflict. I feel something beautiful. I feel this beautiful thread back to the honoring of the feminine. And I'm quite sure that Mary, as I know her, is ecstatic about it as well. Our girls need it. Our boys need it. Our children need it. We need to uplift the feminine for the sake of the future of our planet and future generations. So I never feel like it's a conflict. I would never talk anybody out of their Christianity. Is there resistance sometimes? Yes. I mean, listen, all things goddess were positioned as evil.
Yeah.
Evil. So then we have to talk about the history of the burning times. We have to talk about, and all of that's in here as well. Everything that had to do with the goddess and everything that had to do with the female and things that you couldn't control became evil, dangerous, had to be subjugated. And that's how you also get into, because women and all things female were so very, very dangerous, that there was persecution for centuries of women in the name of the evil that women are by nature. Now, for example, this is from the Malleus Maleficarum, The Hammer of Witches, by the Reverends Henrik Kramer and Jacob Sprenger. It was written in 1486 with the full support of Pope Innocent VIII, and it was the indispensable authority for 3 centuries of persecution and terror throughout Europe, which is when many women were killed. In fact, in my town, a woman was drowned for being a witch. Anytime there was something that was scary in the community, something going wrong, cows, aren't giving their milk, the cream isn't coming in the churn, the weather is bad, the crops are failing, it's got to be a witch. So this is an example of this kind of proscription. What else is woman but a foe to friendship? An inescapable punishment, a necessary evil, a natural temptation, a desirable calamity, an evil of nature painted in fair colors. These were the kinds of proscriptions. For example, all witchcraft comes from carnal lust, which in woman is insatiable. Wherefore, for the sake of fulfilling their lust, they consort even with devils. There's a whole segment in this book that goes back to the first prescriptions against the female, which started with the first written words out of Sumer, the Mesopotamian Law Code, 2350 BCE, first written words. You get a glimpse of the former paradigm. Ready? The women of former days took 2 husbands, but the women of today, if they attempt to do this, must be stoned to death. This is the Mesopotamian Law Code, 2350 BCE. The word husband is strange to us. What it was saying was that there was a fluidity like there is in matriarchal cultures. Some people stay together for their lives, men and women, because it's just that kind of a relationship on a soul level, however you want to describe it. They stay together. Other relationships in matriarchal cultures, they don't last as long, but they're still just as sacred. Some people have more partners and lovers throughout their lives, some just one, but the judgment isn't there. And the children are always taken care of in the house of their mother's line. So this first proscription against the female said, no, 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 no. We're going to have this marriage, and the ownership of women was taking hold. So now if a woman or a culture is following the old ways, they've got to be stoned to death. They've got to be eliminated. I mean, this sounds pretty intense right now. And the message is, there's so much love in it. But these pieces of history are important to know about. Let's evolve together. There's no blame. This is the human journey. So there's no one to blame. It's the human journey, and we're all evolving it together. But women, mamas, you are the feminine face of the divine.
I love that.
No matter what faith you practice, you are the feminine faith of the divine, imparting the beauty of your heart, your vulnerability, your beautiful female sense and body. You're imparting that this is all sacred to your children, even if you're passing along your religion's rituals. Do it with the feminine. I just celebrated Passover with my friend. I am not Jewish, but we've been together as sisters of the heart for 21 years. This year at Passover, I cried again because I love the tradition so much, but this year even more so because she worked in the feminine. We didn't just pour wine for Elijah, we poured it for Miriam and Elijah as well. Now she's keeping the traditions, but the women of the stories out of Judaism are singing from history, saying, thank you for remembering me in your living bodies. That's the stuff I'm talking about.
I love that so much, and it's bringing out that message that's in us that, like, I feel like, especially as moms, what I even went on this journey was because I felt this calling from within to bring something out. I didn't even know what that was, but it was just following that and listening to that to see where it leads. A lot of us will just like, well, that's too much work. I'm just going to suppress that. I got to take the kids come first. But what I've learned on this journey is that I'm now modeling for them to figure out what they want to do, and it's no longer that me doing everything for them, which is probably why I lashed out this morning, because it's like I need some space for the different things, and they need to take care of some of their own stuff. But it really is just listening to that calling from within us to go further with it. And it is, I feel like it is that energy from the divine saying, it's time for us, even as the Dalai Lama, as we were talking about, had said in 2009, the Western woman is going to save the world. It's by listening to whatever is inside of you to come out. And that's what this is all about, Mama Genius, is really to listen to that voice, see where it's telling you to do, and find the support from this community to help you get that message out there.
Said when you started it, you weren't quite sure where you were going.
Right.
That's also trusting the void and the creative process. We don't see the baby until the baby is born. Well, you can with, pictures into the womb now, but it's the gestation is happening, the creation is happening before we can actually see the creation. Everything's coming up out of the ground now in our hemisphere for the spring, but the quickening of those seeds
Oh, I love,
beneath
yes.
the ground started without us seeing,
And
so trusting is really good.
and that mama archetype of all of us, whether it's child or not, we are birthing, creating stuff from inside of us, as you were describing.
Have you ever been afraid to raise your hand in class or apply for the school play? I know I have, but not since I've joined the Speak Feed Lead project. The Speak Feed Lead project is now going to Tanzania to help the youth there get their voice heard. We need your help to give a donation. Any donation counts. If it's $5 or $100, any donation will help us be able to inspire the youth and change their lives and give them the power they need to speak from their hearts and give them their voice.
As we ask for a donation for this project, we also want to pass that voice and message along to you, as well as bringing more connection to your family. And so we want to provide a guide for you to bring meaningful connections between you and your kids, what we call a morning circle. And it inspires you to go through and really conversate with your kids in a 5 to 10 minute fashion that really starts to bring deep conversations. We provide the directions for how to do it, along with the cards you can print yourself, and create the deep questions such as, what does it mean to be yourself? And you'll be surprised as you go around doing this process, how it starts to just naturally start to open up more and more conversations, even throughout the day. So we want to bring the voice to everyone. All we request is for a donation to our Tanzania project, and we will send you the details to how to make your own circles and get your own cards as well. So please click the link below and make the donation that you feel comfortable with, and we will send these materials to you. I know we're running out of time, and I don't want to forget to ask you your 5 questions. So we're going to go through those quickly. But I'd love to know, number one, what is one podcast that's helped you on your journey as a mom, businesswoman, feminine energy teacher?
Well, your question luckily said what podcast or resource, because for me, the resources come from different places. I've gotten back into reading, which is nice, finding my time and space in the night to read, and sometimes in the middle of the night. But there are many beautiful books, and they can be very varied for me. I mean, I just read a book called American Values. It's written by Robert Kennedy. And what I was amazed by was how much has been accomplished within that family to serve American values as they relate to helping the people who don't have the power, and of really being a beautiful model in the world. I mean, it's like never ending. That kind of commitment and courage was very moving. My resources are generally books. I did just read American Values by Robert Kennedy, and I found it to be like, wow. And I'm not talking about politics here. I'm talking about the human spirit. I'm talking about the commitment to something bigger than yourself, even at risk of personal harm.
I love that, and I think that's what it comes down to is it is commitment to something bigger when you choose to listen to that to the inside, to what's calling you. Which actually just leads us into number 2 is talking about what kind of activities do you do that in your family that helps you bring joy?
So the daily things that are really easy, I need time to myself to meditate, which I do. So I do my meditation in the morning. And then my home, where I live with my partner, and we have a home that's a good place to be. It's a kind place to be. So the very act of making dinner and having dinner together when we're not working at night, which also happens a lot with all the kinds of work that we all do, but on those nights, and there are at least 2 per week, sometimes more, we our time together is lovely and caring and rich, and we feel like every meal we make is the best food that anybody's ever eaten at any time ever on the planet. So we really get into it. And we also take walks together, and those walks and talks. So those are simple things. We walk out the door, we make food. It's nice.
Yeah.
So simple things like that.
I love it that how you put it. It's just the simple things sometimes that we just need, and to recognize them and remember that it's just as easy as that, and find the things that we can do each day to bring that joy out. Which actually leads us into number 3, which we kind of alluded to a little bit before, is just talking about the busyness and how we use that to hide behind the true callings and things we want to do. And I think that's why I love this question is just that I've struggled with that. Even like when I say to someone, "How are you doing?" It just automatically come out of me, and like the answer is, "I'm busy doing blah blah blah." But what advice do you have for us to like release some of that?
As I look at it all myself, and with so much of the work that we do now being things that we need to do on our own with our laptops and computers. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. You want to take a trip, you called a travel agent. Some people still do for very high end travel. Not that long ago, you wanted to get the phone line, you called and everybody did the work for you. And now you have to do things on your own all the time, right? So if you're running a business like I am, it's a lot of marketing, it's a lot of time. I think that the first thing to look at is that work in and of itself, it will never end. It's always screaming something needs to be done. It's the nature of it. It never ends. Especially with the internet and social media and so forth, it's calling because it's like a barking dog. And I love dogs, but like one that's ugh. So is looking at that and going, okay, well, uh, you know, I'm going to stop. I'm going to close my computer. I'm going to take a walk with my family. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get up and do a few downward dogs because it really doesn't end. One of the other things too is like even just this morning for my meditation, I said, today I'm going to go about my day with relaxed ease. I have so
Mhm.
far, except for about 20 minutes, because a meeting I was on went from half an hour to 90 minutes, which meant everything else was going to go. So for about 20 minutes, but I was like, okay, I'm depleted. I'm no longer grounded. I don't feel good. Fix it now. Because anything I do out of this is just going to be painful. And how is that going to really harness the whole universal flow?
Oh,
So
I
it's
love that.
recognizing it and going, man, I feel terrible right now. I'm so depleted. I stepped outside. The sun is shining and just be like, "Just
Bring
ground."
it in. Bring
Yeah,
it
yeah,
in.
yeah.
I love that. And number 4 is what does success mean to you? And then how do you celebrate success either in your business or as a mom or however you do that?
Okay, well, success we have to be really careful about because our culture calls for, we should all be known globally. Exactly. So we have to be really careful with that. So right now I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating. Like I can feel this in my hands. So
You got
this is
service holding the side by side you get today.
it feels really good. So I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating this so that I don't, immediately just go, into the frenzy of what's the next thing. Celebrating that, feeling good about that, and allowing the universe to, now that I've done my part, to meet me with ways to share this. And why would the universe help me to share this or want to share this? Because it's healing. Number one, it's healing. What is it that I'm doing? Why is it that I'm doing it? Because it's full of love, it's from my heart, and it's healing. Well, that completely supports universal flow. So defining success would be I have made my work is work that is loving and helps others.
Mm.
So that in and of itself is a success. My daughter has been raised by a mother who is doing this kind of work. And that gives her the signal that she has a deep, innate, soulful value that she can also, in turn, impart to the world. So the greatest measures of success are going to be far more personal and really take actions, sure, to keep on increasing, but to feel successful as is
I love feel
because we're
successful as
operating
is. Yes, I love that.
from our hearts.
Feel successful as is.
Yes.
And that leads us into our last question for today is how do you inspire your daughter or just the next generation in finding their own genius?
Well, I've used the arts and gone to a high school group here at a regional arts center and done presentations for them to let them know that I use the arts to share something from my heart because it was healing for me. So for example, to these students, it was letting them know that I could see that they were magnificent souls on the
Mhm.
planet, called into the arts, highly talented. You don't have to follow the path that says, I'm just going to go to auditions and try to get a job and I'm going to get just you inside yourself. You could also do something on your own if you like, but recognize that you were given these talents to share with the world, things that you personally have found to be helpful or positive and healing. My whole life is about the next generations. I mean, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? So that every child that is born is the holy child, so that the feminine in every boy and every girl and every child, as uniquely created, because creation is perfect. Some of us might be both, right? So it's all beautiful, and to really lift up the feminine in that. So all my work has to do with the next generations, really.
Love that. So just let everyone know how they can get a hold of you and any last words you want to leave the audience with.
Okay. I'm at inourrightminds.net, inourrightminds.net. And all my things can be found there. My book is on Amazon. Yes, please pick up a copy. It certainly is a way to support my work. And I promise you, it'll be good for you.
I second that. I'm learning a lot. It's expanding the mind.
Thank you.
Any final words for everyone?
Final words.
Yep. Gotta leave with final
Thank you
words.
for watching Mama Genius. I met Michelle, and what she's doing is a very, very good thing. If you are a mother with small children, actually, no matter what your age are, the fact that you're drawn to material like this means that you are really, really, you're on point. You're a perfect human just as you are, with all of your dark and all of your light, all of your up and all of your down. You're turned on. You're all systems go for your role on this planet, to shine your own love through your heart, just as you are. And the way your love reaches your own home, your own table, your own family, your own kitchen, your neighborhood, your school, your community, that's as relative and as important as if you were a global leader. It's all relative. It all counts. It all matters. Thank you for being as you are.
Before we wrap up, here are some key takeaways to remember. Number one, embrace periods of rest and uncertainty. Sometimes it's valuable to stay in the void, pause, and not rush into the next goal, something I know I need to work on. This period of reflection can bring profound insight and growth. Number two, listen to your inner voice. Dale shares the importance of tuning into the feminine voice inside us, which guides us to explore the sacred feminine wisdom. Trusting the inner guidance can lead to the transformative experiences, something we're always talking about on this podcast. Number three, honor your emotions and moments of frustration. Recognize that both calm and upset parts of yourself and your child are lovable and part of the human experience. Take walks and process the emotions together to find that rhythm in your day. Number four, celebrate. Celebrate all aspects of the feminine. Dale emphasizes the importance of recognizing and valuing the sacred feminine in all forms, the different body types, ages, and cultural depictions all along the way. This can help us heal and uplift that feminine energy inside into our daily life. And number five, integrate the sacred feminine into your daily life. Acknowledge the lack of divine feminine representation in modern culture and find ways to incorporate it into our family traditions and practical personal practices, just like they talked about doing at the Jewish Seder. Different ways that we can bring that feminine back in. This can bring the rhythm and the deeper sense of connection to your spiritual journey, and to really unleash that feminine inside of you and really take that masculine out of motherhood, because the masculine's there in all the doing and the busyness of it all. It's time to embrace that feminine and really feel the calm and the rhythm of our day as we do our activities, something I'm going to be focusing on today. Thank you everyone for tuning in together. And remember, this is all about let's doing motherhood together, because it's so much more fun. Thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. If you found value in our conversation, please share this episode with another mama who might benefit. Sharing helps us build a supportive community and reach out to more mamas like you. After all, it's more fun when we do motherhood together. Until next time, stay motivated and continue to pursue your dreams as you shine in your genius.
Wow.